season, but since then it's been really quite nice this summer.
And so how busy a season is it going to be? Because next year, 2012, presumably Olympics and all that sort of stuff, is that impacting on the way you're planning next season?
It certainly will do. The initial plans of what we might be doing next summer for the Olympics are underway in Air Force Command, but it's a busy season this season as well. We're flying about 94 displays this summer, so we'll be busy all through till the end of September.
I don't think many people appreciate when you compare, you say, the Italians, the French, even the Americans, God bless their hearts, how many displays we as taxpayers get out of the Red Arrows.
We do. It's quite a lot. It wouldn't be fair to say it's double the French or the Italians, but it's certainly quite a few more. But it does come at a penalty. It means that the pilots aren't always available to come into air shows, and it means we're quite busy for the entire summer, and our families suffer a little bit as a result.
Just out of interest, the team is still up at Scampton. It's sort of been a moving target for where you're actually going to be operating from. Again, has that been resolved yet?
Yes, it has. We will come to RAF Waddington. The date is still to be confirmed. As you can imagine, it's been a tough time financially for, of course, the whole of the UK, not just the Royal Air Force. So when we actually move to Waddington, it's still to be decided, but that is the ultimate aim. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the voice you can hear is mine, Squadron Leader Graham Bagnall. I'm Red 10 with the Royal Air Force's aerobatic team. You know them better, of course, as the Red Arrows. The team leader prides himself on his timely arrivals, so I'm banking on Red 1 being here at exactly 14:53, which is 30 seconds away from now. Of course, it's a great pleasure to be here at effectively what is our local air show, RAF Waddington. We're up the road, 8 miles away at RAF Scampton for our home base, so of course this is a big one for us. So ladies and gentlemen, here they are at RAF Waddington 2011, the Red Arrows. Starting a rolling display today, just with this cloud cover as it is. Reds 8 and 9 you saw there slide to the back of the formation, and now Red 1 called them into diamond. The team leader this year is, as I mentioned, Squadron Leader Ben Murphy. Red 1, the aircraft at the front throughout the display. We know him as Baz on the team. He went to Loughborough Grammar School and graduated from the University of Newcastle with a degree in geography. We always think it's worthwhile that Red 1 knows where he is. And he's called the team into diamond as they fly this 3G bend here to open the display. Now, Ben's a former Harrier GR7 pilot, and like all of our Harrier pilots in the Royal Air Force, he's seen operational service over Afghanistan quite recently, where, of course, we provide close air support to the young men and women of British and our coalition allies on the ground there. In his 5th year with the team this year, it's his 2nd as leader. The only other man to have been on the team consecutively for 5 years was Ray Hanna, right in the very founding days of the Red Arrows in the mid-60s. Red 1 calls the team into Big Vixen. Now, Ben, as team leader, might well be an extremely capable pilot, but he's also a very good cross-country runner and not a bad kite surfer, something he managed to do quite a lot of during our spring training at RAF Akrotiri in Cyprus. He's got the team in Big Vixen now, a very wide formation running in from the right-hand side. Wide formations are particularly difficult for the pilots on the extremities, and in this case, on the left wingtip of Big Vixen, Red 9 has a real job in this manoeuvre, which is the Big Vixen roll. Red 9 is the lowest aircraft as we look at them now. Flight Lieutenant Zane Sennett, one of the 3rd-year pilots on the team this year, watched by a former Red 9, Squadron Leader, or Flight Lieutenant, Andrew Keek. He'll be watching how he's doing in Big Vixen there, and also by a former Red 9's wife, Mandy Ray, who's also in the audience. Now, Zane's a former Harrier pilot himself, having served on 1 squadron, 4 operational tours in Afghanistan. And if the weather permits in the second half and we are able to fly the famous Red Arrow's heart, it'll be Red 9 Zane who provides our arrow through the heart. He's our Cupid, if you like. In fact, we're starting to worry on the team that Zane really does believe that he's Cupid. Okay, Red 1's calling the team now into swan formation. You'll see the wings slide back to the end of the neck of the swan, another wide and long formation. And it's generally considered that the further you are away from the leader, the more challenging the formation flying is and the position keeping. That's why we put our more experienced pilots in those outermost positions. However, on the inside of the right wing, just to the left of the neck of the swan as we look at it now, you would find Red 2, Flight Lieutenant Chris Lyndon Smith. We call him Smythe on the team, and he's the first of this year's 3 first-year pilots on the team. Born in Kitwe, Zambia, he grew up in Cape Town and Johannesburg, and came back to the UK at the age of 10 and graduated from Wyndham College in Norfolk. Right now, though, making an easy job of the swan reversal. So as the smoke comes off, Red 1 calls the team into typhoon formation. Smythe will move up and forward and become the front right canard of our Typhoon, of course, named after the Eurofighter Typhoon, which is the immediate future of the Royal Air Force's combat air power. And you can see the shape of it quite nicely there now. Now I mentioned that Red 1 was quite a keen kite surfer, well so is Smythe. He's a former Tornado GR4 pilot and an instructor on the Hawk, but a very good kite surfer as well. In fact, he thinks he's better than Red 1, which I reckon is pretty damaging for his career. Enough about that. The smoke comes on as they pass us now in about a 3.5 G bend in Typhoon. Now, traditionally, in close formation flying, pilots look at the lead aircraft and react to his or her movements. Of course, if you do that, there's bound to be some delay in your reactions when the leader starts to manoeuvre. And in a big formation like ours, we can't afford that to happen. We want our formation to manoeuvre all at exactly the same time. So all of our formation manoeuvres are initiated on Red 1's voice commands, and you'll be able to hear that shortly. I'll let you have a listen to the radio. You'll notice that Red 1 emphasises certain syllables of his voice commands to the pilots, and that allows them to anticipate their control inputs so that they start manoeuvring at exactly the same time as Red 1. The pilots are setting up now for the Apollo twister. The formation shape is called Apollo, named after the Eagle landing craft of the Apollo 11 lunar landing missions of 1969. And this is the Apollo twister. It's flown in red, white and blue smoke, so let's have a listen to the radio. So there you go, you hear Red 1 give the command and roll, emphasising the word roll, and on the R of the roll, all of the pilots put in their control inputs to start manoeuvring at exactly the same time as Red 1, and we maintain this lovely, rigid Apollo formation. Flown in some very patriotic British red, white and blue.
Red, white and blue smoke.
The Apollo twister, and at the back left of our Apollo, the lowest aircraft as we look at them now, you'll see Red 5, Flight Lieutenant Kirsty Stewart. Kirsty is the first ever female Red Arrow pilot, and she's in her second year with the team this year. She was born at RAF Lockton Hall, an old RAF hospital not far from here, and grew up in Colby. Actually went to school in Stamford. And in fact, she's watched here today by her parents, Robbie and Tan, who I think have driven not very far, probably from Colby, I hope I'm correct. And they'll be watching her, wishing her the best out there in Apollo. Now, Kirsty's an experienced pilot with the Royal Air Force. She served on 13 Squadron at RAF Marham, serving operationally over Iraq. But she's also been a flying instructor on the Hawk at RAF Valley in North Wales, which of course is where we train all of our future fast jet pilots. Now, Kirsty's not only a great pilot, but she's a keen sportswoman, currently in flanker formation, but she's a very keen kayaker, rock climber and mountain biker, and later this summer we're hoping the stabilisers are finally going to come off her bike. Red 1's calling the team now into eagle formation. Reds 4 and 5 put their smoke on and slide back. Red 4 is the highest man we see them moving to the back right of eagle formation. And that's the second of our first-year pilots this year. Flight Lieutenant John Egging, known as Eggman, and another of the team's Harrier pilots. His frontline career having been served on 4 Squadron, which recently retired from service. But again, another man who's seen operational action in Afghanistan, providing close air support to the troops on the ground there. Eggman's also a keen runner and cycler. He does quite a lot of it with his wife, but we're pretty sure his wife Emma is a lot faster on the ground than he is. Okay, now as you can imagine, the Red Arrows are a very well photographed unit. Of course, in the aviation world, there are a lot of photographers who spend great deals of time watching the team and photographing them. One close friend of the team and a very well-renowned photographer throughout the aviation world is a man called E.J. van Koningsveld, a Dutchman. He's been flying with the Red Arrows for 20 years and photographing us from inside the aircraft and outside as well. In fact, for the last 17 years, he's been coming to RAF Akrotiri in Cyprus to fly with us and to take photographs. He thinks the next manoeuvre, which is called the Whirlwind, is great. And I consider EJ to be a real authority on the Red Arrows, so I'm prepared to take his word for it. You can be the judge today, though, as the pilots run in from the right-hand side in Diamond as they set up for the Whirlwind. It's better to let the aircraft do the talking here, so we'll have a listen to the radio as you watch the pilots widen in Diamond to fly the Whirlwind. So in that manoeuvre, you saw all of the pilots simultaneously spot roll to the left. And of course, during that manoeuvre, for about a second and a half, they all lose sight of each other. That requires an awful lot of trust between the pilots, and we build that up through the 6 months of our winter training. We train 3 times a day, 5 days a week, British weather permitting, throughout our 6 months of winter training to build up the trust we need and to build up to the standard that we like to present to you in the summer. So this is the final manoeuvre of the first half of the show. It's called the Diamond Chicane. Gives me a chance to talk about Red 3, who sits just to the left of the leader. And Red 3 this year is the third of our first-year pilots, Flight Lieutenant Sean Cunningham. Sean's another Tornado pilot, having served on 617 Squadron, the famous Dambuster Squadron, now based at RAF Lossiemouth, but during the Second World War and their famous missions, they were based at RAF Scampton, just up the road, and coincidentally our home base. So ladies and gentlemen, the Red Arrows' famous Diamond 9 formation, this is the Diamond Chicane. So that's the end of the first half of the show. It gives me a little bit of a chance to tell you another interesting fact about Sean Cunningham, Red 3. Of course, very good pilot. He's also a car buff by his own admission. He drives a very nice Porsche 911, which he says he bought because he really likes cars, but I'm pretty sure that as he's a single man, he bought it just to impress the girls. And he won't thank me for saying that in the commentary. Certainly made a nice job of the Diamond Chicane, though. Okay, the pilots are now going to spice the show up a little bit. You've seen all the graceful manoeuvres in the first half of the show, all of the 9 aircraft operating in one formation together. The aircraft just 6 to 8 feet apart for the majority of that. What we do in the second half is break the formation down into 2. The front 5 aircraft are known as Enid, after Enid Blyton's famous 5. Mums and dads, you might need to tell the kids who Enid Blyton was. And Red 6 to 9, the back 4 are known as Jippo. Jippo are led by Red 6 and 7, the synchro pair. Enid and Jippo swap in and out with each other throughout the second half of the show for a much more dynamic performance, which we're going to start with the detonator.
Watch this one.
Okay, we're left on the right-hand side then with this smoke on, Red 6. Red 6 this year is Flight Lieutenant Dave Montenegro, known as Monty. Now, he's watched today not only by his girlfriend Angie, but also by his mum and dad, Mary and Angus, who've come all the way down here from southwest Scotland. I think they're from the Newton Stewart area. Mary and Angus, forgive me if I'm wrong there. He's the synchro leader. He's on the right-hand side, chased down by Red 9, Zane Sennett. In from the left comes Red 7 and Red 8. They make up Jippo, and this is the Jippo Park. So the aircraft are just 100 feet above the ground in that manoeuvre, and they cross just 100 feet apart. 100 feet is about 35 metres, which is more or less as close as your body will let you get. Okay, Monty's on the left now, the synchro leader. He's going to call a turn reversal here. That's the call. He and Planky cross right in front of us as they fly the Cyclone. Okay, coming in from the left-hand side, here comes Red 8, Flight Lieutenant Dave Davis, known as Horse. Welsh representation on the team, born and brought up in Colwyn Bay, North Wales. Brynellian School was where he was educated, and when he joined the Royal Air Force he went on to fly the Tornado F3, which used to provide the UK and the Falkland Islands operational air defence. He's also been a flying instructor and a solo display pilot for the Hawk. Here are Enid then, for the very patriotic red, white, blue. By the way, it's called the Goose, and on the left-hand side, Enid are going up into a steep climb. We call this manoeuvre the steep climb. We really should think of something better than that. I did speak to a young man in an air show last year who said we should perhaps call it the Cobra, because as they bunt over the top as they're doing now, it looks a bit like the neck of a cobra. So perhaps we'll call it the Cobra. Okay, Enid, hand over to the synchro pair now, from the right and the left. This is the Carousel. Red 6 Monty's on the right, Red 7 Planky's on the left. Now in this manoeuvre, Red 6 with his blue smoke on is flying a predictable 5 or 6G bend here. Red 7 Planky just switching to blue smoke now as the contract for avoidance. He's concentrating particularly hard at the moment, making nice work of it though, as they run in for the third pass of this manoeuvre, which is the Carousel. And hand over to Enid, who are out to the front somewhere. I can't see them myself, but very shortly the smoke will be on as we set up for a fantastic manoeuvre, which I'll explain. Red 1, just left above the Hunters in the distance there, perhaps above the B-17, is barrel rolling around the wings of the formation. His red smoke, seen head-on, makes the mathematical symbol for infinity. So we call this the infinity break. But it's not over. Take a look out to the right-hand side. Here come Red 6 to 9 Jippo. One of my favourite manoeuvres, this. Watch now as Red 6 and 7 roll inverted. Red 7's going to fly inverted close formation on Monty, who's upside down as well. 8 and 9 are barrel rolling around their smoke trails, and very quickly you can see why we call this the corkscrew. Enthusiastic voice of Red 9 calling complete at the end of the corkscrew, and Red 6 very enthusiastically saying rolling out. So Jippo depart on the left-hand side. They'll be handing over shortly to Enid, running in from the right-hand side. Now you can imagine that close formation aerobatics close to the ground are difficult enough the right way up. Well, imagine how difficult it is doing it upside down. So it's Red 7 Planky who really earns my respect in that manoeuvre. Okay, out on the right-hand side, you can just see the smoke, or just right of centre rather. You can see the smoke of Enid running in towards us as they step into line astern. So they're stacked down from top to bottom, Reds 1 through 5. And at the bottom is Kirsty looking up through 3 aircraft to try and see Red 1. Now normally, even-numbered aircraft fly to the right-hand side of the leader, and odd-numbered aircraft fly to the left. But as you see them now, they're the other way around. We've got 3 and 5 on the right, 2 and 4 on the left. And we need to swap them back. So this is the clever part of this manoeuvre, which we call the slalom. And believe me, to fly that manoeuvre as you saw it there requires complete trust between those 5 pilots. And even for an experienced pilot to sit in cockpit and watch that, it can be quite eye-watering. Now, I've just spoken to Red 1 on the radio. Unfortunately, the Lincolnshire Air Ambulance helimed is on its way into Lincoln to the hospital with a casualty on board. So we're going to need to pause our display at this stage to allow that aircraft to land. I'll let you know as soon as I am able as to when the display will continue. Unfortunately, of course, we will always pause to allow an air ambulance to get in. It gives me a chance to just mention an event you heard about a little bit earlier from Giles Croft, the commentator for the Battle of Britain Memorial Flight. The Red Arrows pilots are joining the Battle of Britain Memorial Flight pilots to cycle from the west coast of Wales to the east coast of England in October. And that's a 400-mile cycle ride, up and down a few hills as well. I don't know what we've let ourselves in for. It's also raised money for a number of charities, primarily though the Royal Air Force Association, Fly to Help. And we're raising money particularly for the Royal Air Force Association's a telephone call minutes fundraiser, which allows us operationally I'm fluffing my lines. Let me try again. We're riding miles per minute, which is a charity effort to raise money to give servicemen overseas on operational detachments more phone calls minutes each week to speak to their loved ones back at home. Many of our servicemen, of course, are serving overseas in Afghanistan, serving the operation over Libya as well, and of course in other operational theatres around the world. And they spend long times away from their family at home, and I'm sure there are families here today missing loved ones as we speak. So if you feel you're able to support our charity, please visit either the Battle of Britain Memorial Flight tent or the Red Arrows tent, where you'll be able to donate towards our charity cause. And believe me, we'll be going through some pain as we cycle those 400 miles later on in October. 100 miles a day, which to me sounds like an awfully long way on a bicycle. There's an easy way to do it if you fancy picking up your telephones. You can text 70007, the word cycle, and you'll very kindly donate £3 to our cause. We'd be very grateful if you would do that. Text the word cycle to 70007 to support the Battle of Britain Memorial Flight and the Red Arrows as we try to raise money for RAFA and Fly to Help. Fly to Help is a charity which arranges for disabled people to fly in aircraft and gain sensory excitement from the experience you get flying. I'm just speaking to Red 1 on the radio. Fairly sure that the helicopter will be on the ground very shortly. We'll be able to continue the last few manoeuvres of our display. I might take the opportunity to welcome the United States Air Force display team here today, the Thunderbirds. For us, the Red Arrows, it's a great privilege to see them here at our air show at RAF Waddington. So a very big warm welcome to the Thunderbirds today from the Red Arrows. We wish you a very pleasant stay with us here in Lincolnshire and hope you have a great couple of days here at the Waddington Air Show 2011.
Daddy, I need help here.
Yeah. You can't help it.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, the helicopter's on the ground. We're clear to recommence the display. We're going to commence it from out to the very front. So if you look somewhere beyond the windsock, we'll be looking to pick up the headlights of Jippo. That's Red 6 to 9, led by Red 6, Flight Lieutenant Dave Montenegro. And with a name like Montenegro, you're probably not surprised to hear that he was born in Bogota, Colombia. But he came back to the UK at the age of 1, and he grew up in Beckenham, Kent, where he went to Elaine's school. Okay, he's calling for the smoke to come on. There are the headlights. Reds 8 and 9 start with barrel rolls around 6 and 7. As 6 and 7 spot roll, they're setting up for the amazing Jippo break. They're just inches apart. Believe me, there's a little bit of smoke and mirrors in there that keeps them all nicely apart. Okay, on the right-hand side, there's Monty with his smoke on. On the left is Red 7, by Lieutenant Benjamin Plank, known as Planky, another of the team's former Harrier pilots. He's descending down aggressively down to 100 feet as he and Monty set up for double rolls. Planky, another Harrier pilot, served operationally in Afghanistan. Air brakes are out now. These are double rolls. New Year's resolution this year, Planky decided he was going to get fit, so he started doing quite a bit of weight training, and he's doing quite well. He can now bench press 2 bags of sugar at the same time. Okay, coming in from the left-hand side, you'll see Enid lining up for one of my favourite manoeuvres in the whole show. These are what we call rollbacks. Up and around 4 and 5 who shuffle up to fill the gap. And the next voice you'll hear will be Kirsty's. Very enthusiastically letting Red 1 know she's complete in a rather masculine way with the rollbacks. Now, if you ask the pilots how do they fly this manoeuvre, well, they might just say to you they pull and roll as hard as they dare. Out to the front, Red 6, 7 and 9 flying the Vortex. Breakout manoeuvres, the pilots can be pulling up to about 7G. That means that for them, everything weighs 7 times what it does for us here on the ground. Their whole body, in fact, weighs 7 times more than normal, and that, of course, makes the formation flying quite a lot more challenging. Now, as they tip in towards us, it's the synchro pair for their final manoeuvre together in the show. Monty Red 6 is on the right, our Tornado F3 fighter pilot. On the left, Red 7 Planky, our former Harrier pilot. They run in together for the opposition barrel roll. Air brakes are out, colour smoke is on, the synchro pair. So ladies and gentlemen, the synchro pair bid you farewell. It's time to look back out to the front and pick up the main formation who are setting up for the finale of our show. This is called the Vixen Break. The smoke is on. They're running in towards us now. Ladies and gentlemen, putting the Union flag into the skies above Lincolnshire, the 2011 Red Arrows.